Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So many people say, um, if you see the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is it really the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam if you see him in a dream? The answer is no. Um, there are some rulings on it. Sheikh Abdul Aziz bin Baz, rahimahullah, stated that in order for a person to know that this person that came in his dream is the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, has to know well the Prophet's characteristics. For as he explained, he has a long beard, black, black eyes, jet black, hair. Uh, he's in a way like asmar, and a type of lightish, type of brownish, right? Like he wasn't very white, he wasn't very dark, right? So and so on and so forth, and a person should know the wasf exactly, right? But what is more stronger of an opinion and more thabit is that many people. I had one person, he was a Salafi guy. I don't know what he is. He is a Madkhali or something like that. Allahu Alam. He quoted to me one time that he said, "Man ra'ani faqad ra'ani." That's it. The Prophet said, "Whoever seen me has seen me, because Satan cannot take my form." This guy didn't understand the hadith, because there's another hadith in Bukhari. The Prophet Muhammad said, "Man ra'ani fil manam fasayarani fil yaqadah." Right? He said, "Whoever sees me in his dream, he has to see me when he is awake." And all these hadiths say that whoever saw the Prophet Muhammad has indeed saw him, for Satan cannot take his shape. This was during the time of Hijrah. This was during the time when the Prophet Muhammad, when the people were coming to Medina, when the people of Medina were waiting for him. Some people of the Ansar, as in a hadith in Sahih Muslim mentions, that Abu Bakr was riding on the camel, and the Ansar came to him and thought he was the Prophet. They said, "Ya Rasulullah," and this and that. They thought he was the Prophet. So Abu Bakr was like, "What's going on? I'm not the Prophet," right? So then he noticed in his mind what was going on. So that these people have probably had before seeing the Prophet, they probably had in a dream a person came in the form of Abu Bakr, or that some people stated in the hadith that Abu Bakr was the closest characteristics and the closest looking of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he was very similar in his akhlaq, his manners, his personality. And if you read the seerah, you notice that Abu Bakr is always with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the first one to defend him, the first one to believe in him, right? Um, so we can understand from this also that the people had, during the hijrah, when the Prophet came, if they saw him the same way they saw him in the dream, then that means the one who came to them in their dream is the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? And the types of the rulings are also that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he comes in your dream, um, he has to have two characteristics: either mubashir or either nadir. He's either a person who gives glad tidings or either a person who warns you, right? This is to know that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the actual one who came to you in the dream. And you may ask that because sometimes, for me personally, I dreamed of two different people at the same time, both claim to be the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when I woke up from my dream, I kind of had shak, and I was very young at that time, very very little. Yani, I wasn't very knowledgeable in Islam. Yani, I was still learning, right? But I noticed, subhanallah, I noticed that there was something wrong, right? And that the people who told me this hadith and told me that, okay, if you see him, you see him. Shaitan cannot take his shape. They didn't understand it in context. If you see the Prophet Muhammad in the same exact way in your dream, as if you have seen him while you're awake, then that is the Prophet Muhammad indeed, with no doubt, right? But if you saw, for example, a different kind of looking person, he's doing bad things, like I saw in the dream, this person that's claiming to be Prophet Muhammad, he was killing innocents. In another dream I had him, he was a little boy, he appeared at the time of Dajjal. And the dream was kind of scary, you know. So and I was still young at that time, so this was not the Prophet. Yani I can't say anything, no ta'liq, right? But I must also keep in mind that I must not call this person the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu, because I don't know how he looks like. And so the dream that says about The Prophet says, whoever sees me in his dream has to see me in the yaqadha, has to see me when he is awake. Some people have mentioned this is in the akhirah, in the afterlife, or this and that. But the closest and the correct opinion is that, as we have mentioned, that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the shaitan cannot take his shape if you have seen him in your dream before meeting him. So the Ansar, they saw him in a dream, and then when they met him, they noticed that this is the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Also, those of the Sahaba that saw the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if they slept and had him in their dream, they would know him step by step, every characteristic in him. So if they knew every characteristic in him, then that means it's the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In no way that shaitan can take the shape, right? Shaitan may take the shape of different than the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not in the same shape as the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the way he looks like. He would take it in another shape, right? And he would tell you that. So a layman like me and you who never saw the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if we have seen a person claim to be the Prophet in the dream, indeed we cannot say for certain that this is the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because we have not seen the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam exactly, and we have not memorized his looks exactly. Because if we have memorized his looks, then that means it's the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If we know him by his looks when we were awake, and then we had him in a dream and we saw him exactly the same way we saw him when he was alive, then that means it's the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because the shaitan cannot take the exact shape of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He can come in other types of shapes and claim to be the Prophet. He can come in maybe a shape closer to the Prophet, but there's a little place that is kind of disfigured, or a little place that's kind of not exact, right? Maybe different types of the way that you saw him when you were alive, exactly the way same when he was alive during the time of the Sahaba. So this is the correct opinion. Wallahu ta'ala alam. But I wanted to say something. This also reminds me of when Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah. Ibn Taymiyyah, as you know, he is the great Shaykh al-Islam, the greatest scholar of Islam. The only people who hate him are Ahlul Bid'ah, like the Ash'aris, or the Sufis, or the Maturidis, or the Shi'as, and the Christians, and the Jews, and even the Indian pagans, and Allah knows how much. Why? Because this guy has tired them when he was alive and when he's dead. And like Imam Malik says, ما كان لله باق وما كان لغيره زائل. Whatever is done for the sake of Allah will stay in the world and in the hereafter. And whatever is done for the other than the sake of Allah will not continue on, will not stay, will be destroyed in the world and in the hereafter. It will not remain in the world or the hereafter. The only thing that will remain is the thing done for the sake of Allah, which is the truth. And as we see, Shaykh Ibn Taymiyyah, he caused a lot of controversy among these Ahlul Bid'ah who hate him because he's on the true Islam. They hate him because he destroyed their aqidas and their madhabs and their own religions. And even the people today who learn from Ibn Taymiyyah, the people hate those who love Ibn Taymiyyah and learn from him. So the only people who, they say, there's a saying that the only people who hate Ibn Taymiyyah are al-mubtadi'ah. من أحبه فهو على الحق ومن كرهه ولا يكرهه إلا منافق أو من أهل البدع, right? So this is what we have to keep in mind. And he has done a lot of things. His legacy is continuous. People are learning from his legacy to debate Christians, to debate Jews, to debate pagans, to debate the bid'ah, people of bid'ah innovations. So Ibn Taymiyyah mentioned a story about a teacher in Baghdad. He's a scholar, and he used to have a student that used to come to him and learn from him. So one day, he wasn't the student did not come anymore. And the teacher was like, he's not coming to my lessons, he's not doing this, he's not doing that. So what did the teacher say? Maybe he's marid, maybe he's sick, I might go have to check up on him, maybe help him with something, right? So he went to him and he sat with him and he says, why haven't you been coming to my lessons? He said, I haven't been coming because I was busy for a couple of days. An angel came to me and he's taking me to Al-Jannah. He said, let's go to Al-Jannah. And when I go there, I see the beautiful waterfalls, I see the gardens, I see, the beauty there, and I would not want to leave it, right? So then the Shaykh said to him, you know what? If that angel is coming to you, take me with you to Al-Jannah, right? So then this person came at night, the person that is claimed by that person to be an angel. And as you know, the devils, the jinn, take the forms of what they call rohaniyat, right? Person comes, he comes like as a person who's rawhani, with white hair, white beard, white face, white clothing, as if he's an angel with a beautiful appearance, and that the person actually believes that he's an angel. And this is what actually happens to sorcerers. The jinn doesn't come to the sorcerer as a person who's evil looking or that. No, he comes to the sorcerer to make the sorcerer feel safe, right? He comes to him in a beautiful form, right? And so the sorcerer would love to go to, for example, to high lands, high places which are beautiful, which he might see, jinn appearing as women, ladies, and he would follow them because of their beauty, right, etc. So this person came, this shakhs that claims to be an angel, which is a jinn, he came and took them. He said, the student said, I'm going to take my teacher with me to Al-Jannah. Can you come with me? The angel said, okay, come on. So he led them to a place, and they sat there the whole night. And they saw the beauty, and it's like paradise, right? They saw birds flying, nice rainbows, sunshine, a beautiful environment, green grass, and everything like that. So when it was time to leave, when the angel came back to them, they usually have to leave. They have to go back home during that, before Fajr, right? Before the sun starts to go up, right? So when they stayed there, the angel came to them and said, let's leave. So the student of the sheikh went up. He's ready to leave. He said, let's go. The sheikh said, no, come on. Why do we have to go back to the world? Let's stay in this beautiful paradise, in this beautiful Jannah. It's beautiful, right? So then the jinn, got angry at them and let them be, and he left. And so when it was sunrise, the man woke up, the sheikh woke up, and they woke up and they saw themselves where? In the garbage place of Baghdad, where people throw the garbage. The place that the Satan took them, and it's beautiful, it's nice, it's like paradise and that. So these are the tricks of the shaitan. It's a true story, of course, and we have to believe that the jinn are able to do that. They are able to seduce people, hallucinate them, and paint them a picture of a mirage that happens to them. And this is why many people who have sihr and magic, they kind of see these things. They kind of see like a place, if they go to a place that has nothing in it, it's all dark and gloomy, and there's garbage. The shaitan paints for them. He doesn't show them that this place is scary. He paints to them a picture that this place is beautiful. It has furniture, it has this and that. And when the people go back to their family, they say this place has furniture and this and that. When their family go to that place, they see this place is a kharaba. It's a ruins. It's garbage. It's dark. It's filthy. It's a scary place, right? And so this is what happens. This also reminds me of Ibn Taymiyyah mentioned when he was in prison, when Ibn Taymiyyah was in prison, the person, the wali, the ruler that placed Ibn Taymiyyah in the prison, he heard people coming with news and saying that we are seeing Ibn Taymiyyah. They thought that Ibn Taymiyyah was released from prison. They say, we see Ibn Taymiyyah, he's teaching us, and we're coming, attending his lectures, right? And Ibn Taymiyyah is in jail. So the ruler is like, maybe some of my guards are betraying me. Maybe they're letting Ibn Taymiyyah go to places and then come back by the end of the night, right? So he wanted to tell Ibn Taymiyyah to come. He wants to see. He said, I heard some people saying that you have been leaving. You have been going out of jail, and people are saying that you've given lectures and this and that. Many different people have reported this. Ibn Taymiyyah said, no. He was confused. He says, the whole time I was in prison. So then he says, Ibn Taymiyyah says, لَعَلَّهُ شَيْطَانٌ تَمَثَّلَ فِي صُورَتِي, right? He's probably a jinn of the devils. He came in the form of my form. The wali told him, the ruler told him, why have you not said instead that this is an angel? He said, Ibn Taymiyyah, because he's smart, and this is why it's important, brothers and sisters, to seek knowledge. He was very smart. He says, الْمَلَائِكَ لَا يَكْذِبُونَ, the angels do not deceive. The angels are not imposters. So this story needs to show us that this is indeed the reality of who appears in your dream. You can't immediately say this is this and this and that, and he's this and this, he's that, right? You have to beware, right? And similarly, Ibn Taymiyyah mentioned that the Hindus, or those people, the pagans in India, they used to claim that they used to dream about saints, pious people, and then when they wake up in the morning, they see the saint in front of them when they're awake. So he mentioned that this is how the hadith should be understood, not in other ways which people start to make up. Oh, any person you see you call him the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu. And even if he comes in the other form of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu, you call him, this is false, this is not correct. It's not, a person should not call anyone the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu, and he should understand the hadith exact, that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu, if you have seen him when you were alive in the same exact form, if you see him when you sleep, if you see him the same exact form as well, then know that this is the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu. Because shaitan cannot take the same exact form of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu. He may come in a similar form, but also in slightly in a fake picture to try to show you, because the shaitan cannot take the exact picture of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu. He's unable to do that. So by that we have to understand the hadith, what is meant by that. And this also reminds me that people should, the mu'min, the believer, should seek knowledge, not be trialed by anything he sees. For example, one of the Sufi saints, he was a murtad, he was a kafir. He used to claim that he was Allah. And Ahlul Ilm, the people, said this guy should be killed, we should grab him and kill him. He's murtad, khalas, he's claiming that he's Allah. And the people are actually believing him. So when they brought him to execute him, they placed him and they, basically chopped his head off. The blood, sprayed on the walls in the form of Allah, in the name of Allah. So the shaitan made Allah's name appear, with the blood that sprayed on the wall. The blood formed the name of Allah. So the people said, look, this is Allah, this is him, right? Look, it's in front of us. So these are tricks of shaitan which he tries to deceive people. And also Ibn Taymiyyah said that the Sufis used to go debate with the Christians, and they used to go drink poison, for example, to show them that nothing harms them. And they used to walk in the fire, like imagine walking in the fire and nothing bad happens to them. And by that they used to convince the Christians that Islam is true by a false way. By, of course, not the true way of Islam, by a false way, because nothing in Islam says you should do that. So by that, the Christians used to incline and become Muslims according to their way. So as I said before, when a person becomes Muslim just because he's seen this or seen that or something that his desire showed, he's not really a Muslim unless he believes in Islam as it is, the teachings of Islam as it is. Not because of what his desires say. Not because he says, oh, I can be homosexual at the same time and can be Muslim. And this also reminds me of some people saying they're always waiting for a fatwa of a sheikh to come telling them that dating is halal. This reminds me of an Egyptian film movie that one of the sheikhs, of a village, right? One guy saw the people in the village smoking, right? Religious people smoking weed. So the guy was like confused. He says, what does your sheikh say about this? Isn't that haram? Isn't weed haram? The guy says, لكن شيخ هذه القرية حللها لنا. The sheikh of this city, he says it's halal, weed is halal, so we can have it. يعني عن جد هل ذهبت عقولكم? Are you يعني Allah says بل هم كالأنعام بل هم أضل. Allah says that these people are like cattle, but they're more astray than cattle, right? So yeah, subhanallah, this is how people get deceived, and a man should beware about that. And also what happened as well is the Zanadiqa. If you know the story about the Zanadiqa in Sahih Bukhari that came to Ali radiallahu anhu and said, now we know who was Allah, it is you, O Ali. So Ali was angry at them and he said, no way, you either repent or you'll be killed, right? I will burn you. So by that, Ali brought, basically digged holes in the form of a grave and, basically made fire come out of them, and he wanted to throw them, right? So he started throwing them, right? He started throwing his followers as Zanadiqa. He threw them in the fire and he burned them. So the other party of the Zanadiqa, they were split into three groups, right? He threw one group in the fire and burned them. The other party of them said, indeed, now we know who is Allah. It is you, O Ali, because no one punishes with fire except Allah. This is what they said. Yani subhanAllah, when you see the people deceiving you, like Christian Prince and these people, they're saying, oh look, this is Allah because Satan is Allah because Allah does this and Satan does that. So this is how they try to deceive you, and we have to be careful of that. People play mind games to try to convince you, and you fall into their fitna, which is not something. Yani, when people are debating their opinions, their opinions doesn't really matter. Even if their opinions were stronger than yours, maybe someone else will come with a better opinion and defeat them, right? What does that mean? Does that mean that you should leave your opinion for every person that defeats the person that you were with each time you follow that person? No. Opinions don't matter. The haqq is what matters, right? The truth is, Allah says, لا إكراه في الدين قد تبين الرشد من الغي. Allah said there is no compulsion in religion. The truth has been made clear from falsehood, right? So a person should be aware of these deceptions. And even you can see these people, when they try to deceive, they try to prove their claim that none punishes with fire except Allah. And the Prophet Muhammad says no one punishes with fire except Allah, right? So when Ali burned them, they try to trick people. They say, look, Ali is truly God because he's burning people, and no one punishes people except Allah with fire. So imagine that, how they have been led astray. Beware of this fitna, brothers and sisters, and do not be deceived. فلا تغرنكم الحياة الدنيا ولا يغرنكم بالله الغرور. Do not be deceived by this worldly life, and do not let the deceiver deceive you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.